welcome to episode number 5 of the Discipleship for the Decades podcast. I'm Jeremy, the Blaze Youth Director here on staff at Bethel. I am joined once again by the Reverend Karis Kemp, the Associate Pastor here at Bethel.
Hey, everybody.
And we have our wonderful guest. Last week we had Reverend Dr. Tom Labonte. This week we have Karen and David Beard.
Hello.
Welcome, folks. They are lifers, is that right?
That's true for me.
For Karen. Lifers here at Bethel. David's in the praise team, Sunday school teacher. Karen's on the Presbyterian Women, and have done, a number of things. It's a laundry list of things that they've done around here, and have ties to so many different people that I didn't even realize. So,
yes,
it's great. Jeremy,
I can say I'm a lifer too because I joined the church when we got married, and so that's been the only good part of my life is once we got married.
All right,
David's he's storing up.
Karen's rolling her eyes,
storing up brownie points for something that he's going to do later.
I need all the help I can get.
Yeah, right. Well, we are in week 2 of our sermon series.
Mm-hmm.
Make this place your home. If you followed along with us on Sundays, you've heard Reverend Karis Kemp, who's been kicking off that series. So talking about making this place your home, that's kind of what has led us to today's discussion, right?
Definitely. And I can think of no better fit for today's discussion than David and Karen, partly because they have rooted deeply into their place. And I felt like your voice would be very unique. And I know we talked a little bit on Sunday about images on my walls. So I'm just going to, as an opener, throw it out to you guys. Karen, you shared a few reflections on that. But as you looked at your walls in your home, what'd you learn?
Wow. I learned that I have a lot of scripture on my walls. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, is on there. Let go and let God. I've had crosses. I just went around with a camera, actually, after I heard the sermon, just to see. And it was amazing, the amount of scriptures and Bible verses and just things like that. Plus, of course, we have family pictures, and we have pictures of places we've been and things like that are important to us. But we're blessed. We're a blessed family, and that showed up on our walls.
And I'm going to turn over to Jeremy. Jeremy, did you do this exercise? It'd be kind of fun if people started just texting us in the pictures from their walls so we know. Yeah. And we could guess whose home it is.
Oh, that's true. That'd be
just an idea throwing out. But Jeremy, to you.
Yeah, let us know.
What's on the walls of your home?
Do that. Walls of our home, it's funny because I went around. The only scripture we have is from a wedding gift. Talks about the 3 strands, the 3 cords are not easily broken. And it was a hand knitted, what's the little crochet kind of thing that goes on the wall? There's a term for it.
Needlepoint or cross stitch?
Yes, like a cross stitch.
Okay.
That's on our wall. And so it was interesting that was the only scripture that was on the wall. But we had pictures of places that we had been, family photos. Yeah, I didn't go around looking at what was on the wall like Karen did. I wasn't that diligent post-sermon, but
it's okay. It's only Tuesday. I'm sure you were going to get to it.
That is true. Yeah, we've got some local, like Cotton Ketchy, a local artist out of Mooresville. We've got a painting of his. Mostly stuff that we've been gifted that has made it up on the wall.
Nice.
So showing off what other folks have been willing to give to us.
Well, it shows that what they know that you like. So, if you're showing what you're like, you're letting your light so shine, so they know that something like that is going to say something that you would appreciate.
Oh, absolutely.
Which to me is a way of saying, hey, they saw that in me, that we'd like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the dogs playing poker or anything like that.
No, that is true.
Right. But if you have that on your walls, it's okay.
We still have it.
Well, getting to kind of the heart of this podcast is maybe that intersection of home and faith and bringing it home. And you all have done some distinctive things to your home. So maybe you could start by describing some of what we would see, not just on the walls of your home, but if we came to your home. And talk to us about how Christ informed that, how your faith informed that design.
You go ahead.
If you came to the house, you're going to go, man, this is an old house. And it was, because it was built in 1956. When my dad built it, I was a year old. So we are actually on the property that we've got here in Huntersville, when Karen mentioned about being blessed, our grandkids, who Kelly and Chad and kids, they built a house on the property. They're the 8th generation that's been on that property.
Wow.
So we've been able to trace it back. So Dad built the house, and I lived in it till, I guess, when I went to college, and he rented it out. And then when Karen and I got married, we needed a house, and he gave us an offer we couldn't refuse. And so we bought the house back from Mom and Dad, and have been remodeling ever since. So it's an old house. It's an old ranch house. But we made a decision a long time ago that this is where we're going to stay. We laugh. Hub, Karen's dad, whenever I started looking for a job, he said, "Well, I'll tell you something. You can move anywhere you want to in the country, and we'll support you and back you. But I want to let you know something. Karen's not moving." So I sort of got the hint.
Yep.
So we decided to make a life here, and so they're at the home. And then because Karen grew up here in Bethel, and we decided what do we need for our kids when we make deciding churches? And so we chose that we're going to be here at Bethel because of the home, the family orientation that Bethel provided. And we knew that Bethel as a community and a church would be able to help raise our kids. And we knew we needed all the help we can get.
And we laugh because we say every time the door was open, basically, we were here. And a lot of folks were involved with country clubs and different things like that. And we laugh and say that Bethel was our country club,
Yeah.
Anytime the door was open, we were here. And my dad had even said at one time, you can go to church and like it, or you can go to church and not like it, but you will go to church.
Yep.
And David's family was basically the same way. He could be out late at night or camp out or whatever, but he better be there in church that next morning. So we were brought up with both of us, with really parents that were very faithful to the church. And, we were able to have that relationship, and very fortunate because not everybody has that, and we were definitely, lucky.
Well, it's fun to hear your description of church as home, not only this place and your property, but also Bethel being part of that wider circle. And as a pastor's kid, I grew up in the church as well. And I never think of the church as, maybe it was just that I had some really great experiences, but it formed me in such great ways, and friendships through church, mentors through church, crazy stories through church, that you just think of this place and the richness that a place can be.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think that's what all of us who probably are still churching it and still committed here have found that home. And there's this beautiful aspect to what Christ's community can be. Mm-hmm. And it's not perfect. We all know that. And we've been part of the imperfect. But for me, it just took me, as you were speaking, back to so many memories of, I remember puppetry in this one church. And then I remember this other church where the junior high group that I was a part of was just kicking and booming, and it was just so alive. And so different stories from different places of my home. I don't know about you,
I was going to
Jeremy.
say, it's interesting to me because we're both relatively new. I mean, I've been at Bethel going on 4 years now, but it's different, I think, at a church like Bethel, and you guys have lived this, I think, better than anybody, is when you've got families, lifelong families that are still here, that adds that family aspect to a church. We felt like the church I grew up in felt like a little bit like family, but nothing like what I sense here at Bethel as far as that family kind of family of God, brothers and sisters in Christ kind of feeling that we get here. And I look back and I have those kind of similar thoughts and feelings around, I can pinpoint different times growing up and the youth group and different things like that. But when I think about a church like Bethel and where we've been able to really build on that family aspect of it, and how a lot of people took what they had at home and brought it here.
Sure.
And it paralleled, I think, nicely, especially at a place like this.
Well, it goes back to when the lake was built, because when Lake Norman was being built, Bethel embraced the lake people. Okay, I'll say it. The lake people.
Yeah.
And I remember that was Lynn and Ann Moretz were the first lake people that joined the church, and we opened the doors up to that, and some other groups and churches didn't. No, we don't want to.
Can you, to a
people.
newcomer, explain the lake people? Help me understand.
Anyone that was living on the lake. Anyone that was, and because
the lake was new.
When the lake was built, because
Yeah.
we watched the lake being built. I mean, watched it being backed up, and when they built the dam and all that kind of stuff.
Houses moving down the road.
So
Yeah.
when I say lake people that actually was starting to build on the lake.
And it's
Okay.
people that moved here to be on the lake.
Correct.
Not people that had been living
Not
here.
the people living in Cornelius.
Yeah.
Because I guess primarily the church was made up of Cornelius, maybe a few from Davidson. I don't know.
Well, our address
I'll
was
say-
Davidson at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, that's true. So, I grew up in Huntersville, and we didn't have anybody that I knew in Huntersville that came to Bethel because it was more of just a small community church.
Okay.
Well, and it's interesting. I'm probably going to steal your thunder on this next
Steal it.
question.
Go.
I don't know, but
I love it when
you guys, when I think of your home, I would call it a home place because there's a
True.
lot more than just that one road front house that you're referring to. So I wonder, like, how would you describe the rest of your property and how you've been able to use that to?
Go for it.
Well, Kelly married Chad and Kelly both love baseball. And he came to David one day, I believe is how the story goes, and was interested in building a baseball field. And so now we have a baseball field, and we have a lot of practice there about 5 nights a week during baseball season time. But during the process, we have a barn. We call it our party barn. We have life groups there. We have birthday parties there. We actually going to have a wedding in March, our first wedding at the barn.
Is this in the family or is
No, this is one of Kelly's friends.
Oh,
And this
wow.
is not, we're not talking a beautiful barn or one of these that you see in the
It's a
magazines.
barn.
It is,
barn.
it was where he actually had the cows come through and, tagged them and did like that. It was a working barn. And we've kind of taken a few things down, added a few chairs and tables, but it's not anything fancy, but people love to come there because it's just open. People love to bring their kids. They can run around. You don't have to worry about them. It's just a really fun family time with everybody being there. But we have really used it for quite a few things.
Yeah, and when you were asking us questions earlier about the faith and the family, faith and home and things of that nature, I think one of the things Jeremy was alluding to is if you turn off of Batesford Road onto Gilead Road, the first house is my nephew's house. The second house is where my niece lives, which was my parents' house. And we're in the third house. My older sister's in the fourth house. My younger brother's across the road. Kelly and Chad are down in the woods. Our son actually bought the last lot in Gilead Ridge, so his property joins our property. Back behind my brother's my first cousin, and his son built that. So, and again, because we were fortunate to be able to keep that. But as I was thinking about the faith and the family, stuff like that, it has to do all with relationships. And it's the relationships that we've been able to build with the family, because I see my nieces and nephews and brothers and sisters, except for one brother in
And our
Denver, Colorado.
grandkids.
Our grandkids, we're blessed to see them all the time. But in addition to that, because we have the baseball field, we have developed relationships with so many people in the community that as they come in and they go, man, you really have this and you're blessed. How do you do this? How do you do this? And I go, this is the way we are. And they get to see, what goes on at our ball field. And we have, certain strict rules. Like one rule is no profanity, period. If we hear any profanity, we kick them out. Knock them off. And so people they get to see how we live through that with building relationships with the kids. I'll always remember that one of Kelly's friends in high school came over. She said, I love coming to your house. And we thought, wow, there's so many nicer, fancier houses. She said, because when I come here, I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm at home. And that's just the atmosphere that we try to live by.
And I was going to say, having been to your home on a number of occasions, actually, and I know you say your barn is just a barn, but it's more than a barn because there is a spirit of comfort there, right? And I think what began as this idea of, hey, we have family here, let's gather. The family had a passion for baseball, but now, as I ended my sermon on Sunday, blessed to be a blessing, like you are you have been blessed, and you know that.
Yes.
But how you utilize your blessing, I think, is such a model of, I guess, what we hope to do with our lives, with our homes, right? This idea of, okay, it's our place, but it's not like we're holding it and hoarding it.
Right.
We're sharing it.
True.
So what unexpected blessings and uses have come? As you said, some community members have caught wind,
Right.
a wedding.
Yes.
What other fun stories can you tell us about how God has used your place to bless?
Well, one of the friends of Kelly's and ours as well, but their daughter plays ball with Corey. And so now, after coming over and getting these relationships going, she goes with Kelly to Watchmen of the Streets now and is really involved in Watchmen of the Streets, whereas she would have never been involved in that. We've had life groups over, and we've had, I think Tom came one time and spoke about one of his mission trips or whatever, and anybody that happens to be there at the time on the ball field is welcome to come and listen to whatever we're giving out. And we'll have 2 or 3 or 4 people that maybe would never have been in that, that situation, but they come and they love to listen to what's going on. So I feel like that's a great aspect of having, that capability. We've had some of the ball team people have asked, and they've had their birthday parties there for their children, not ours, but theirs. And that's fine. It's open. It's over. Because of COVID, our granddaughter, who's now 14, can you believe it? She was not able to get up with her friends. And so she had 2 of her friends come over to the barn, and they stayed there, 3 hours, each of them, 6 feet apart, and sat there and talked all afternoon because they could be out in the open. We did Christmas this year out in the barn because we could do it outside. And so I think all of those things are just really great for us to be able to do that. But we love to share it. We love to have people. 4th of July, for instance, anybody, and I'm talking to anybody here today, if you don't have...
What I'm hearing is an invitation to the Beard's Party Barn.
Exactly.
Anyway,
There are certain requirements.
If you don't have
David.
anything going on...
Such as you've got to bring a dessert or a side.
okay.
But we'll cook the hot dogs.
It's not a free-for-all.
You got to let us know we're coming. Kelly started, and Chad started 14 years ago, 12, 14 years ago. People come over for 4th of July. It's called West Fest. Last year was the first year we did not have West Fest because of COVID. And as long as you let us know you're coming, we'll serve the hot dogs and you bring a side and dessert. And I think our biggest number a couple years ago was 200 people.
Year before last was 200
and
folks came through.
A lot of the church people have been there. And I think we opened it up. And, and it's the same with the church. I've told Jeremy, I said, Jeremy, you want to bring the youth out here for something? Come on out. And we'll... That's just what it's about. It's about family. And again, yes, you mentioned about, thinking about Bethel as our family. This is our church family. This is our extended family. And we want to build the relationships with our family so that we can let our light so shine.
And we have to remember that we were fortunate enough that we had family, that my grandparents, one of my earliest memories is sitting on their back porch reading the Bible with them as I was staying with them, So I know that they were praying for me at that time, as I pray for my grandchildren now. And I also pray for their spouses to be. I'm constantly praying it up, further on down the road for my great-grandchildren and such. But I do that because I know that they've done that for me, and I reap the rewards of those prayers.
Well, and what came to me, and I don't think this is a question, I'm just going to keep asking because it comes to me.
Take it.
But David, you mentioned letting your light shine, right? This podcast is supposed to be, and we hope it is for you guys, practical ways to live out your faith, right? Letting your light shine, and in this context of your guys' kind of home place and all that you've got going on, simple things like no profanity on the ball field, right? That's going to make someone stop and think, wait a minute. They live differently than I. Like, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to force the Bible or force Bethel or force any of your religion down people's throats when they come out to the barn, right? It's just the way that you guys live, the example that you guys live by. Exactly. And I think that's something we can take away, like all of us can, is like when someone comes to our house, whether it's what's on our walls, whether it's how we ourselves act, all of that kind of shows people who we are without even having to say a word.
But we don't let that get in the way of the relationship. We build a relationship first.
Yep.
And build a relationship first. And then I remember one particular parent, and he used a lot of profanity. And it was like weeks, if not months later, that in a casual conversation, I'll bring in somebody else was there. I said, yeah, because we have rules and stuff like that. One of them is that we don't allow profanity here. And he turned white. He's like, oh, man, I'm sorry. But instead, I didn't come down hard the first time and say, hey, look, we don't do this. Blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely.
We built that. And when I mentioned it that way, not an issue or going forward or whatever case might be. Yeah. But we built the relationship first.
Well, that's a complete pivot in such beautiful directions, because I think your point here is that so often Christians are perceived as these people who are shaking the finger, don't do this, don't do that. And there's also a perception of when people come into our homes, come into our church, that we will do this. Mm. And if the church were to say the relationship comes first, we realize that people are going to come through our doors who do not look like us, act like us. True. They don't perhaps look like Jesus or act like Jesus. None of us do perfectly, and we talked a lot about that on Sunday. But this idea of how do we take that relationship first, and then you build that relationship and you say, hey, I see something in you that I think could be better, like it could be more abundant in your life. I'm seeing this holding you back. And then given the context of relationship, now you know that you care about them, they care about, they feel cared for, and they can hear it, right? Mm. So
Karen and I, when we did our marriage counseling, Karen and I have been together for next month 51 years.
Not married for 51. Been together that long. Yeah.
From when we started dating.
In the ninth grade.
Dating in ninth grade. I was 15 and she was 14 when we started dating. But when we did our marriage counseling with Dee Dee Whalen, most people, I don't remember anything that they said in marriage counseling. But we do remember something he said. He said, David, short and sweet. And people ask me all the time, how have y'all been together for 51 years? And I remember exactly what he told me. He said he told us to make Christ the head of our household, the unseen guest at every meal, and the silent listener to every conversation. And that
puts things
pretty
into
much
perspective.
That's pretty much like, all right, there's the 3 commandments.
Which is good for marriage and good for living. Right. Like it's both, right? Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for pivoting there, because I feel like that's just so practical, and perhaps you didn't even mean to, but we're coming to the end. I know we could talk forever with you guys. Any wrap-up thoughts? Jeremy, for me, I mean, just hearing your story, it makes me want to root deeply. We love to have people in our home. I know this is a crazy time to try to do that. How are those, maybe that's the question to wrap up with, is how do we bring hospitality? How do we bring relationship and warmth in a season that is challenging? And basically, I'm hearing we go to the party barn and hang out 6 feet apart.
The phones still work. We can call and check on folks, We can pray for folks, We always have those avenues that we don't want to
I think that's super important. I think, it's really tough, Karisha, right during this time to come up with real kind of tangibles. We're trying to be safe. We hope that you guys are being safe too. I mean, we have, Ann and I'll have like a couple over maybe, and we try to stay 6 feet apart and wear a mask if we can. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, we're relying on the phone as much as we can, and
but I think we can use technology now. I mean, we can learn from this. I'll give a great example. Bob Hogan, a member of the church who lives down at the beach. And so Bob found out that we Zoomed the Mosaic class. And I know people say, I'm zoomed out. Well, I don't hear you say I was telephoned out or I was visiting out.
Yep.
It's just part of the reality
it's
now.
New.
And so Bob joins us every Sunday on Mosaic class. And when we come back into the building here, we will figure out a way to where we are Zooming the class from here so he can still be a part of this class. So we can use this technology.
And we've done the same thing with our life group. Not as on, that we should be twice a month or whatever, but we have been keeping up with each other, and it's time to get back together again.
And our app posse, our Appalachian State posse, we use the technology because it is different, but use it.
Embrace it, which is why we're podcasting now.
Exactly.
Right? We want to bring some of the warmth to you, and We want to say thank you for joining us, those of you who followed for the last several weeks. We're having a good time doing this, and we pray that it blesses you, that it gives you some ideas about how to live practically as disciples in the world. So, Karen and David, thank you for being a part of this today.
Thank you for having us.
Jeremy, any final concluding remarks?
Nope. Just so glad. Yeah, I think this podcast is birthed out of that need for technology. So when we say where real faith meets real life, that's what it's supposed to be about. So we hope that you can find great ways to live out your faith in whatever context God has placed you in. So
All right.
in this case,
Bye,
it's
everybody.
people's home.
Yes, people's homes.
Bye. We'll see you next time.